Hello there. So today I'm gonna explore the topic of whether veganism is a delusional cult or not. And as far as evidence, I have something which is, I guess, a practical admission from vegans themselves of what it is. Um, Now, just to clarify, I'm not talking about vegans themselves being in a delusional cult and that vegans themselves are delusional. I'm sure that there are going to be some vegans who are not. Well, I'm specifically talking about veganism as an ideology, um, influenced by corporations and people with official or professional level um, thoughts on the matter who may be influencing the veganism ideology. I'm sure that there are going to be some vegan people who are not influenced by that and have found their own way or their own reasons for having their diet um, as a vegan diet, and I have no problem with that. Some of them are going to be sane, rational, normal people because I do think there's some merit to the general idea of you know lowering the amount of um, meats that are out there in the meat industry. I do personally think that the entire agriculture industry needs to be scaled back so that it's not so corporatized, so commercialized, and that includes vegetables as well. It's not just the meat industry that I think needs to be scaled back, but the majority of anyway, that's my thought. Now we're going to get onto this video, which we'll watch together, and I'll break it down for you, and I'll show you what they're literally telling you. So it's quite eye-opening. I thought it was quite eye-opening when I saw it. So I'm sure that you guys will as well. So this is from a channel called Beyond Carnism. We'll just go and have a look at what they're about, if they say anything. Beyond Carnism works to expose and transform carnism, the invisible belief system that conditions people to eat certain animals. Carnism causes extensive suffering. Animal agriculture is responsible for the unnecessary slaughter of etc. etc. At Beyond Carnism, we believe that people need and deserve to know the truth about carnism so they can make their food choices freely, because without awareness, there is no free choice. Okay, awareness, I see, all right. So we'll get on to this video, which is titled, What to Say to Vegans, According to a Psychologist. So she seems to be quite prominent on this page, on this channel. So the title and the description here is, according to a psychologist, what 2 words can you say to a vegan that can change everything? Okay, we'll get into it.
If you've ever had a conversation with a vegan, especially if the vegan is someone you're close to.
Just to sort of get down to this. So this is Dr. Melanie Joy, psychologist and best-selling author. So she's got some standing. She's got academic qualifications here as far as psychology goes, and I guess therapy and things like that as well. So that's relevant. Let's go on.
You know that things can get heated pretty quickly. But did you know that there are 2 words you can say that can change everything? These words are only as powerful as the understanding they're based on. So before I tell you what they are, I'm going to help you understand a bit about vegan psychology. Imagine that you're sitting in your local coffee shop, sipping your morning coffee or tea, and a stranger approaches you. This person tells you that meat and dairy don't come from cows and chickens and pigs, but from dogs and cats. Of course, you don't believe them. But
the first clue, dogs and cats, right? Okay, let's go.
The informant takes you on a tour and shows you the factories where these animals are raised and killed. Shocked, you see golden retrievers and tabby cats, pugs and Persians, and more. You hear their yelps, hisses, and screams. You witness kittens being ground up alive and puppies being torn from their howling.
You witness kittens being ground up and killed and puppies, and you witness it. You witness it. So you got to keep in mind that as far as legal speak goes, witness is someone who's actually seen something actually occur, and they're a witness of that thing, not something that they've imagined. But let's continue. Witness. It's a strong word.
Mothers and animals being skinned alive while fully conscious. Later,
Animals being skinned alive while fully conscious. Does this happen in slaughterhouses? I guess in extreme circumstances where someone is abusing them, like fully, like some psychopath might be. But as a general practice, I'm not aware of animals being skinned alive being a thing in any sort of, slaughterhouse. So let's go.
as you drive to work, you see truckloads of these animals on their way to slaughter. Seeing their eyes and noses pressed up against the vehicle's
Puppies.
tiny metal grates, you feel helpless to do anything but say a silent prayer for a swift death. In the evening, you return home to your family to find that they're serving meat.
So she's describing a delusion of someone seeing something that isn't actually occurring, but they're thinking that it's occurring. And she's telling you that they're witnessing this when they're not actually witnessing this. And then depicted here is a dinner table with a pug dog in the middle of it, as if people, generally speaking in the meat industry eat dogs. I'm sure in some countries they do, but this isn't an accurate depiction of anything. But she's telling you this is what vegans experience.
For dinner. You look at the food and are flooded with memories of the horrors you just witnessed. You tell your family what you've learned. But they didn't see what you saw, and they don't want to hear what you have to say.
No one saw what that person saw, because that person didn't actually see what they saw, what she's saying they saw. You get it? Right? I shouldn't have to keep explaining this, but I'm going to do it for the sake of hilarity and the sake of absurdity.
So you share more details and start reeling off statistics. But they tell you you're overreacting and it's not as bad as you're making it out to be. Besides, they know someone who raises dogs in his backyard and those animals don't suffer. Desperate for them to understand the truth, you amp it up, highlighting the worst of the abuses.
So this is
But
depicting
now,
vegans.
you're coming across as a little unhinged. Your family snaps at you and tells you to stop imposing your values on them, saying, "You make your choices, I'll make mine." Since that day, your life has fundamentally changed. It's not that you see different things.
You do see different things. You do. What she's describing is not what they're seeing. And this person that this doctor is describing, this psychiatrist, is seeing something different that no one else is seeing. Literally. As far as this depiction and what is being described, right? But she's playing on the delusion even more. She's validating it.
Differently. Part of you wishes you could just go back to blissful ignorance. But you can't unsee what you saw, and your new awareness, coupled with your guilt about having been complicit in the problem yourself, compels you to do everything in your power to end the suffering. It's just a matter of getting enough people to see the truth. So you use every opportunity to raise awareness. But you quickly learn that even though some people are open to your message, many people respond like your family did. No.
Why wouldn't they? If you're describing something and seeing something that isn't actually occurring, they would think you're crazy, and rightly so. Yeah. Why does this person? Why is she trying to normalize it?
Only do they resist the information you share, but they get angry at you for bringing it up in the first place. It's getting harder and harder not to feel angry yourself, and you're starting to lose faith in humanity. Meanwhile, you've started going to demonstrations and joined.
See, and even on the sign there it says "Eat peas, not pugs." It's
online communities of like-minded people. You're exposed to graphic images
Look,
of tortured dogs and cats that reignite your horror
literally
and are
saying
turning
dogs
your
and cats.
anger into moral outrage. And now your relationships are starting to
That's a cut
suffer.
off cat's head.
Try as you
on the plate
might,
there.
you can't help but direct your anger toward the people in your life
Where does this happen?
who you'd expected to be as horrified as you about the problem. And you're struggling to maintain your sense of connection with people who suddenly seem to have...
No. It's not a sense of connection with people. It's a sense of connection with fucking reality. Okay? It's a sense of connection with yourself, the truth within yourself, and reality. And I understand that she might be being hyperbolic, but that's not what she's saying. She's not saying this is a hyperbole. She's saying this is it. This is what they're witnessing. This is what you see, right? What a vegan sees.
such different values from you. You're also in a constant state of fight or flight, since reminders of the atrocity are everywhere. Even your own home isn't a safe refuge. When you see milk in your refrigerator or meat on the dinner table, you can't help but have flashbacks to the horrors you witnessed. And you end up flooded with sadness and anger. And you're
it's a delusional trauma being brought up again of some memory that didn't actually occur. And she's saying that that's what vegans reference. As far as their memory goes, they reference something that didn't happen. And they're triggered by certain things that bring up these delusional memories.
Constantly worried that you'll have to see the people who you desperately want to feel connected with, cooking and eating the victims of the atrocity. On top of all this, you feel like a failure for not being able to convince even those in your own inner circle to stop harming animals.
Get help.
You feel guilty and ashamed for letting these animals down. You don't know what to do to feel better, except to get the people around you to see what you've seen, in the hope that they'll come to the same conclusion as...
Trying to normalize a delusion? Yeah. Trying to normalize a delusion is wrong. It's from a psychiatrist's point of view, it should be the exact opposite of what they're doing. These people should be getting treatment, as far as what she's describing here, right? Not you got to try and convince the world to see things the way that you're seeing them. That's propagation and promotion of a delusion. And why the hell a psychiatrist is instructing people to do this, I have no idea. But it plays into a lot of the characteristics that I've found that vegans have, which I'll get to in a moment.
So you push harder to make them understand. But the harder you push, the more they resist. You're stuck in a painful cycle that you believe will only be broken if others stop eating animals.
It's internal conflict.
You start to feel like an outsider. If you're lucky, you have at least one ally in your life, a person who understands and supports you in your cause. But still, you're often the only person at events who doesn't eat animals.
Dogs and
cats.
And
people talk to or about you like you're strange.
There.
Your friends say things like, "Don't tell me about your diet, you'll ruin my meal," before you even open your mouth. Your colleagues hold office parties where there's nothing you can eat. Your brother dangles his fillet of puppy in front of you and makes barking noises. And everyone at the table laughs and then tells you you have no sense of humor because you don't join in. Your spouse accuses you of imposing your values on your children when you say you want to consider raising them not to eat animals, even though raising them to eat animals is also imposing values.
No one raises kids specific to eat animals. No one like they don't. It's a mischaracterization. As far as I know, when I was growing up, we were taught a balanced diet. We had a food pyramid thing, whether you think that's the right kind of structure for food groups and stuff or not. It was mixed. Why do you think that, there's this trope about, kids not eating their vegetables and thinking they're yuck, and asparagus and Brussels sprouts and stuff like that. And, this sort of cultural joke about, making vegetables taste better so that kids will eat them, or disguising them as something else, or making funny sort of cute character faces out of them so that, kids will enjoy eating their carrots and stuff like that more. It's because it's not an animal diet. I mean, she's mischaracterizing it. People don't teach their kids to eat animals. They teach them to have generally, they teach them to have a balanced, varied diet.
Values. And even though people are normally expected to raise their children according to their own values, which is why, for example, nobody expects a Christian to raise their children as Jewish. As you continue learning about dog and cat slaughter, you continue to expand.
It's not dog and cat slaughter, right?
Your thinking and adapt your lifestyle. You learn about carnism, the invisible belief system that conditions people to eat certain animals and to resist information that would open their eyes to the truth of what's happening. You stop wearing...
Isn't that what she's doing now? Like, playing on that?
The invisible belief system that conditions people to eat certain...
An invisible belief system that conditions people to eat certain animals. Isn't what she's describing an invisible belief system that conditions people to believe that they're seeing certain animals getting slaughtered? That's exactly what she's doing here. And she's unaware of it.
Animals, and to resist information that would open their eyes to the truth of what's happening.
It's not true.
You stop wearing leather gloves after discovering they're made from kitten skins, and you stop wearing scarves that you've learned contain dog fur.
Not made of dog fur.
These changes only confirm others' beliefs that you're being extreme, and your family
delusional.
complains that you're going too far.
Crazy.
Even though to you, your behaviors are simply evolving as your awareness evolves.
Not evolving, devolving as awareness dissipates. It's a lack of awareness. See, from a this is dangerous for a psychiatrist to be pushing.
Even though
shit.
Your choice...
This is made for kids. You know, simple animations and stuff like that. Well, it's going to appeal to kids anyway, right?
Stop eating animals was deeply empowering, and you feel a profound sense of purpose and inspiration in your life. You also feel distressed, in no small part because of the disruption this choice has caused to your relationships.
Because it's a delusion.
You feel like nobody understands your experience.
Because
you feel invisible,
haven't experienced it.
Including to the people you were once closest to. So the 2 words you can say to a vegan that can change everything: I understand. Like all people.
You understand their delusion? Is that what she's referring to? No, let's go on.
Vegans need to feel that their inner world is seen, that they're understood.
So vegans need to feel that their inner world is seen, and it's a delusion that she's describing, and she's telling people to validate someone's delusion and pretend that they see their delusion, which would only further the delusion. It would only make it worse.
Good. Especially when it comes to the things that are most important to them. You may think that unless you agree to stop eating animals, nothing else you say matters. For some vegans, this may be the case. But for many, understanding significantly diffuses tension. And once you've come to a place of understanding, you can decide whether you want to learn more about veganism and perhaps...
How can you come to a place of understanding of vegan if you need to know more about veganism afterwards? You can decide on whether you need to know more about veganism. So, obviously, if you need to know more about veganism, you don't understand the vegan, right? So why would you say to them that I understand you?
Become a vegan ally. Someone who's not fully vegan, but who supports veganism and who just tries to be as vegan as possible. So the next time you're struggling to relate to a vegan, or anyone for that matter, just try to see the world through their eyes.
Through a delusion.
Understanding creates connection.
It's not understanding.
And it's the cornerstone of healthy relationships.
You've got to understand the delusion.
A compassionate world.
That's not compassion. To acknowledge to validate someone's delusion and go along with it, that's the opposite of compassion. You're actually making it worse for them, right? Like you should be sort of going around and comforting them a different way, you know? Share this video. Hey, help create a more compassionate world. A more compassionate world, right, would not validate someone's delusion, and it wouldn't mischaracterize vegans as actually seeing something that they don't see. So she herself is painting vegans as delusion. So I think this is it's an injustice to vegans themselves, this video, because it mischaracterizes them. But a lot of vegans go along with this. They don't mind. The logic of this seems to skip over a lot of their heads. Like we'll have a look in the comments here, and we'll see how many people approve of this and how many don't. This hit me because it's exactly how I feel when I'm not in my bubble. This is my comment here. Why am I feeling like this video does a great disservice to vegans while it thinks it's doing good? Anyone else see this? And it's coming from a mental health professional. It's as if they don't understand the mechanisms of psychology and behavior while they're actually describing it. But then again, the DSM mental health manual most of them are guided by has no grounding in science or long-term studies. That's true. So hear me out here, because I'm not having a go at vegans. I think a lot of them are probably sane, rational, reasonable people, but here this video is showing me vegans are delusional, which is depicted by numerous distortions of reality, both visually, audibly, and with language. It also mentions the internal guilt the vegans feel and repeatedly shows them externalizing a desire to get everyone to stop eating meat or see what they see, but there's no mention of that internalized guilt being resolved, just an expectation that the world must change instead, which is a problem. For example, if I feel guilty about stealing an apple, I can either accept that I did it and that other people do it, and that I might have to steal one again if I really had to, and that there are heaps of apples to go around anyway, and I don't have to keep feeling bad about it. So the guilt is resolved through an internal process of change. Or I can refuse to forgive myself for stealing and feel constantly guilty and try to balance the injustice by making the rest of the world realize that they are also guilty and should feel the same guilt and shame as I do. Then, if we are all guilty, the guilt is resolved through an external process of change, which is wrong. You shouldn't do that. Then the video is suggesting the best way to help is by saying, I understand, is if you see what they see and are also doing your best to make the world change. But that would validate the delusion of their inner world, literally. She calls it an inner world, as if she knows the inner world and the outer world different, without seeking to acknowledge or resolve it, which would just perpetuate the psychological conflict she is describing. Honestly, I didn't expect this video to tell me that, but it's right there. The video is directly showing you and indirectly telling you that vegans are delusional and have some internalized, unresolved, guilt-based conflict, and suggests that people go along with it and pretend it's normal. Wow. I don't want to think this way about vegans. I'd like to think a lot of them have a variety of reasons and experiences and behaviors that don't fit with what this video is describing. Unfortunately, I don't think that's quite the case. But another comment. I love this, especially as a piece of media intended for non-vegans. However, I don't think that the term vegan ally is effective. No problem about the cats and dogs. Perfect. That is the point, not only for veganisms, but for all kinds of relationships. What? Thank you so much for doing these videos. So well explained. That's exactly how I feel. Is that exactly how people feel? I'll never forget how I felt in one of your lectures when you were talking about how we as vegans feel around other people. It's a delusion. I appreciate the intent in this video, and I really, really appreciate the analogy that might help non-vegans, Westerners, understand the horrors. I'm not going to read all that, unfortunately. I'm not sure I want animal abusers telling me they understand what I am going through. So they've got a problem with people, you know, falsely saying that they understand when they don't, according to this person, understand. So you get the idea. Pretty much no one has a problem with the fact that this is mischaracterizing vegans as delusional, right? And my experience a lot of vegans, and not all. I think there are going to be a lot of them there that are sane, rational people, as I said. But the general methodology for their argumentation is messed up. It's messed up. And when I go into discussions with vegans, or anyone for that matter, ideally I want them arguing their points well. I don't. I just want to see if people are actually able to argue their point successfully, logically, rationally, reasonably, so that they can actually be good at understanding and debating and arguing and things like that, right? But one of the common phrases that vegan activists, let's just separate vegan activists from vegans. Let's just call them that, right? So one of the popular phrases I hear from them is meat is murder. And they'll keep on calling it murder, murder, murder. If you're eating animals, if from a slaughterhouse, it's murder, murder, murder. But the word murder, the word murder is associated with humans. So it's a human killing a human, and having a pre-planned intent to kill the human, right? So an animal can't murder a human, and a human can't murder an animal. It doesn't work that way, yeah. But they'll even if you show the definition of murder to them, they won't get it. They still want to sort of hide it, right? And they still want to go along with that terminology. And I'm trying to help them make a better argument, right? Another thing that a lot of vegan activists seem to think is that the entire world, all humans, are going to somehow one day be vegans. And it's like that's like, do you not have enough of a mind to understand that a lot of people have different opinions, and you're not going to get everyone being vegan, and that the entire history of humanity has eaten meat? Do you expect like everyone to just change? Do you expect humans to change their inherent historical nature? Like it doesn't work that way. I mean, these people's ancestors grew up eating meat. They wouldn't be alive if there wasn't meat for their ancestors to eat. Another one that they come up with is that it's barbaric to kill animals. And it's like, and that we should be more in line with a natural process, or with nature. And it's like, do you not realize that in nature, animals kill each other all the time? And the general response from that is, well, they do it to eat each other. It's like, no, there's a shitload of animals that just kill each other for no good reason. It's straight up like killing without eating them. And humans aren't even in the top 10 for that kind of stuff. So to not understand the history of humanity, and not understand humanity, and not understand the wild of nature and how that operates, but assuming that you know how it does and how things should go, and how we should go into the future, assuming that everyone can have the same sort of desire for what to eat, and for them to cut out a historical part of humanity's diet is playing into the idea of utopianism. And you can't, that's an imaginary thing. You can't do that. The only way to do it is if you stop being a human. Another claim that a lot of them seem to make is that they care and have compassion for all living beings on the planet. And then they go ahead and deride 90% of the human population for eating meat, saying that they don't have compassion, they're murderers, and they're evil, and they don't have empathy or something like that. Yeah, it's like, hold on, you care and have compassion for all living beings on the planet, but not 90% of the other human beings. You can't understand these other human beings. You can't sort of put yourself in their headspace that they may not want to completely cut out meat from their diet for a variety of reasons. mainly because humanity's never done it before? Like, do you honestly think that all these points of argumentation that I'm talking about, it's not to have a go at the individual, it's to have a go at the actual ideology? Because after seeing this video, I can understand now why some of these people have this idiotic argumentation, level of argumentation, where they have close to zero critical thinking skills, and it's as if the delusion that we're being presented with in this video carries over into their cognition and into their argumentation, where they hijack words like murder and misuse it so that they can try and change the reality around them, and expecting the whole of humanity to be vegan one day. That's trying to get the whole world to change to match your delusion, to normalize it. So it blows my mind that here it is. They're literally saying it and no one notices it, you know? And if you don't notice it, then you're going to sweep a delusion under the rug and build up the rest of your worldview on top of a foundation of delusion. And it's just going to carry all the way through it. So I just want people to, just look. Yeah, it's messed up. This is messed up. And this is evidence from a psychologist and a best-selling author that vegans are delusional and that they should be lied to, and that their delusion should be validated and made worse, and that, well, she's not presenting it. She's not literally saying it's a delusion or a problem. They want the rest of the world to conform to someone's delusion, to the delusion of a cult. This straight up sounds like a delusional cult. Veganism is a delusional cult. If you're a vegan, please don't subscribe to the cult of veganism. You can be a good person. You can argue well, everything. I'll respect you. That's fine, you know? But don't be a part of this cult. And the other thing is, you've got like PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, the world's largest vegan organization, with celebrities and millions of followers, right? And they'll straight up capture animals off the street, pets and stuff like that, and go and kill them. And they'll justify the killing of animals. And when I speak to vegans and I ask them, "What do you think of PETA, huh? How can a vegan organization go around killing animals, and you're saying that we shouldn't kill animals?" And every single one of the vegans I've spoken to hates PETA. They say PETA doesn't represent veganism, yet it's the world's largest vegan organization. So what does represent a vegan? If it's not PETA and it's not this video, I'm gonna have to argue that this does represent veganism, but the sensible, logical vegans should separate themselves from this stuff. They should stop letting organizations like PETA and this kind of crap from psychologists. They should call it out and say, this does not represent me. And it blows my mind, man. But there you go. It's there. Thank you. And I'll see you in the next video whenever that happens. Bye. How do I turn this off? Off?